speaker, Dennis Muilenburg. So Dennis Muilenburg serves as an innovator in residence for Iowa State and is a co-founder of ISU's Innovation Fellows Program. In this role, he engages with students to expand their leadership and innovation capacity through a variety of projects and hands-on training programs. Dennis is also chairman, CEO, and co-founder of New Vista Acquisition Corporation, launched in 2021, and owner, president, and CEO of Damn Sci-Fi Consulting LLC, launched in 2020, was our award sponsor for this year's competition. Previously, Dennis Muilenburg joined Boeing in 1985. Starting at the company as an engineering intern, he served as president from December 2013 to December 2019, as CEO from July 2015 to December 2019, and as chairman of the board from March 2016 to October 2019. Until July 2015, Muilenburg served as vice chairman, president, and COO of Boeing, where he supported the company's aerospace business operations and focused on specific growth enablers, including important global relationships, leadership initiatives, and development program performance. Before that, Muilenburg served as president and CEO of Boeing Defense, Space, and Security, before serving United States global defense, government, and commercial customers. Earlier, Muilenburg was president of BDS's Global Services and Support Business, vice president and general manager of the Boeing Combat Systems Division, and program manager for Future Combat Systems. Prior to that, he served as vice president of programs and engineering for Boeing Air Traffic Management and director of weapon systems for the proposed Boeing Joint Strike Fighter aircraft. He also held program management and engineering positions on F-22, airborne laser, high-speed civil transport, and the Condor reconnaissance aircraft, among others. Muilenburg spent the first 15 years of his Boeing career in the Puget Sound region of Washington, where he held a number of program management and engineering positions in support of both the commercial airplanes and defense and space businesses. A native of Iowa, Muilenburg earned his bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering and an honorary Doctor of Science degree from Iowa State University, as well as a master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics from the University of Washington. He's a fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics and the Royal Aeronautical Society, a member of the National Academy of Engineering, an inaugural innovator in residence at Iowa State University, and a distinguished fellow for aerospace mobility and manufacturing in the St. Louis University Research Institute. Previously, Muilenburg served as a member of the Caterpillar Board of Directors from 2011 to 2020, chairman of the Aerospace Industries Association Board of Governors, an executive committee member of the Business Roundtable, a member of the National Science Council User Advisory Group, a member of the U.S.-China Business Council, and a member of the Washington University Board of Trustees. Currently, he's a member of the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation Board of Directors, the First for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology Board of Directors, the National World War II Museum Board of Trustees, and the Northwestern University Board of Trustees. He also serves as chairman of the Board of Biblical Business Training, chairman for the Board of Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center, St. Louis, a member of the CEO Forum Board of Directors, and a member of the African Vision of Hope Board of Directors. Dennis has been a mentor to me and our committee throughout this process, and we are so happy to have him here to give our keynote tonight. So with that, I'll hand it off to Dennis.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that, and thanks for the kind introduction. Boy, that was a long one, so I thank you for hanging in there on that. But Charlie, it's been a privilege working with you and the team over the past year, and thanks for your vision and all the surrounding activities of this event. And to all of you that are joining us tonight, both in person and virtually, thanks for your interest in this effort and for the teamwork across the country. It's a pleasure to be with you. What I thought I'd do tonight is just share with you a few slides talking about leadership and innovation. Some of that taken from my experience at Boeing over 35 years. And then I want to share with you three specific examples of transformational innovation. One is an airplane example, one is a rocket example, and one is related to X-Wings, just to add a little fun factor to the discussion. I hope to walk through that material and then have some time for open Q&A, and I'd be happy to go any place you might like to go with that Q&A. Charlie, I want to share my screen. Could you give me screen sharing authority, please? It says right now I'm disabled on screen sharing. All right, now I have the screen.
You should be good to go now.
I have it now. Thank you. All right, just a moment here. Okay, there we go. All right, if you can see my PowerPoint with a picture of Iowa State, could you give me just a thumbs up there to confirm you can see it? Fantastic, thank you. All right, so I'm going to jump right in. My leadership journey, I'm going to take you through 6 waypoints on my leadership journey at Boeing, and just talk about some of the different types of innovation that I had the opportunity to experience. And as part of that, just try to broaden your mindset around innovation and all of the forms of innovation that come to bear, and then wrap it up with some leadership lessons learned that tie that all together in terms of innovation in today's world, and how you as engineers and innovators can really make a difference in the world in a positive way. The first example is the airplane you see here on your screen. It's called the X-32. This is a prototype airplane that I worked on early in my career at Boeing. This was after my internship at Boeing in Seattle and returning there full time, working with a team who was in the middle of the Joint Strike Fighter competition. And this was my first technical lead job. So I was the chief engineer for this airplane. Over a 4-year time period, we went from a drawing board to flying 2 of these prototypes, which was just a fantastic experience. As Charlie mentioned earlier, this idea of hands-on engineering and prototyping, such a valuable experience. This airplane was designed to have 3 missions in one. It had to take off and land on aircraft carriers for the US Navy, had to operate off of standard runways for the US Air Force, and also have the ability to do short takeoff and vertical landing for the US Marine Corps. So big challenge here was wrapping all of that into one airplane. And we had a lot of technical innovation in this airplane, all new composite materials to make it lightweight, a direct lift propulsion system to provide the vertical capability, and a highly common airframe that would allow it to be built on the same factory line. So in this case, a real example of technical innovation. And also this was really my first experience running an engineering team as the chief engineer, and really gave me a taste for what it was like, the multiplying effect that I could create as a manager, and really was the pivot point in my career where I started down the technical management path. The next waypoint in my journey was something I call coast to coast, and this involved a move from Seattle to Washington, D.C. And in this time period, Boeing was setting up a new air traffic management business. This was about in the 2000 timeframe, when the skies were very crowded. It was challenging for airlines to be able to operate flights on schedule just because of the sheer volume of air traffic. So the goal here was to build a new air traffic management system that would allow more capacity in the skies safely, and in so doing, allow continued traffic growth. So this is something I like to call operational innovation. It wasn't really designing an airplane, it was designing the wraparound systems, the control features, designing the airspace, in this case, trajectory-based airspace that airplanes could follow in a more automated fashion rather than voice control from the ground. So it was a fantastic experience to work on this from a design standpoint. Unfortunately, just as this program was getting underway, we just moved to Washington, D.C. with my family, arriving there on the 1st of September, 2001. And 10 days later, 9/11 occurred, and obviously it was devastating. We lost 2 Boeing employees that day in those accidents or in those crashes, and overnight the equation went from not enough capacity in the skies to not enough safety in the skies, and so we ended up unfortunately having to disband this new business and redeploy the engineers to other parts of Boeing. But nonetheless, this was a tremendous learning experience. And one of the leadership lessons here was being able to endure through failures like this, through a business failure, and actually learning from failure, and then using that to grow going forward. And certainly that was my experience from this waypoint in my career. And in fact, that took me to the next step in my career, which was a move from Washington, D.C. to St. Louis. And I had the opportunity to run a new program. It's called Future Combat Systems for the United States Army. And this program, among many other things, was designed to create a network that would connect soldiers. This was in the early 2000 timeframe. And I really think of this as the Internet of Things before it was called that. It was back then what we referred to as system of systems design. So a new form of innovation where we're actually designing a number of new vehicles, both ground vehicles and flying vehicles, in many cases robotic vehicles, and connecting them all together and providing information to soldiers. And one of the experiences I remember here, the robot that you see featured on this chart was designed to find explosive devices. And I got a postcard from some soldiers one day in my office, and on the front it said, "Mr. Muilenburg, sorry, last week we lost robot serial number XXX." And then flipped the postcard over, and on the other side it said, "But the robot saved 8 soldiers' lives." And that was a real memory point for me, because it reminded me of the importance of the work we do and the fact that lives literally depended on it. So again, another real leadership lesson learned there. My next stop, I call it Spacebound. Through a series of promotional opportunities, I became the CEO of the defense and space portion of the Boeing company. So at that point, our commercial airplane business was about 60% of the company, and the defense and space business was the other 40% that I was responsible for. And this had a fantastic amount of product and services innovation, ranging from fighter aircraft to helicopters to rockets to tankers to cargo aircraft. Just a tremendous variety of innovation and products and services that I really enjoyed. And one of the things here that we worked on was something called the Space Launch System, or SLS, as you see it labeled on this chart, and hence the Spacebound name on this particular chart. This was a competition to design the rocket that would, for NASA, ultimately take the first astronauts to Mars. And during my tenure here, we managed to win that program. And a little later on, I'll show you this rocket is now being built and getting ready for its first mission, which will be a slingshot mission around the moon. So just a fantastic waypoint in my career. Again, a lot of innovation around different kinds of products and services and the variety that went with that. And my leadership lesson again here was one around understanding that lives depend on that work. And as a result, that work has to be done with great integrity and excellence. And that's true, really true for all careers in the engineering field. The next point in my career was something I call Windy City. And this was an opportunity to move up to Chicago to our world headquarters and take on the responsibility of chief operating officer for the company. Now, this was in a completely different kind of business. I'd spent my entire career working on products for customers and externally serving our customers around the world. And this was really an internally focused job, looking at optimizing the company and how it works. So we worked on things like the digital enterprise, the IT systems, the factory and engineering systems, and knitting them together, optimizing our supply chain with some 15,000 supply chain companies around the world, and trying to drive an integrated culture across the company that included about 150,000 employees. And so this was really innovation along the business and culture and process dimensions. And I encourage all of you to think about that as you think about your careers going forward, that innovation comes in so many forms, and product and technical innovation is very important, but in many cases, business and culture and process innovation are equally important, or in some cases even more important. So building out your skills as an innovator in all of these dimensions is really important. And I encourage you to think about that and take on that challenge. And then the sixth stop that I want to touch on briefly was my next step, and that was to become the CEO of the Boeing company. And this was in 2015. And what an extraordinary honor that was. At this point, I had been working for the company for about 30 years, starting as an intern, and now the opportunity to be the CEO. And this was my dream job. Certainly not something I anticipated doing when I joined Boeing as an intern so many years earlier, but really a sense of privilege for being able to do this job and stewardship of really an iconic company that was known so well around the globe. And my second year on the job, 2016, we celebrated the centennial of the Boeing company. So Bill Boeing started the company back in 1916, and they actually started it in that red barn that you see in the background of this picture. That barn has obviously been refurbished to a degree, but that is the original structure that Bill Boeing started the company in, is now part of the Flight Museum in Seattle. If you're ever in Seattle, it's a great place to visit. And we had the privilege of being the CEO during the centennial and celebrating not only the first 100 years of the company, but then also thinking about what would the second century of Boeing look like, and what could those new innovations for the future look like. So we use that as a rally point, a motivation point for our team. And with that, what I want to do is show you three sort of focused innovations in that arena during my CEO tenure. One an airplane, one a rocket, and one related to X-Wings. The first, the airplane example. This is an airplane that started out as the TX trainer. So it was a competition to design and build the next trainer for the United States Air Force. There were originally 7 companies in this competition, and Boeing managed to win this competition and led to an airplane that's now called the T-7A Red Hawk that has just entered production. And the big innovation here was to fundamentally change how we designed airplanes and built them, going to an all-digital system. Obviously, CAD systems have been used for a long time in airplane design, but going end-to-end from the engineering design through all of the manufacturing down into every single element of the supply chain, so that it dramatically reduced the time to assemble the aircraft, and also allowed us to get much more quickly into flight tests. And we actually went from concept on paper to flight in about 3 years, compared to a traditional timeline in the jet fighter arena, which would have been 6 years. So roughly took out half of the schedule. Incredible performance by our team. I had the privilege of flying in this airplane. You can see the picture there. Of course, I'm in the back seat with the real pilot is in the front seat, but I did get a little stick time here on one of our experimental flights. Frankly, my favorite part of the Boeing CEO job was getting to fly in some of our airplanes. This is one sweet flying machine, but it showed the power of innovation, not only in the design, but also in the underlying digital processes, and how that could dramatically improve the end product, reduce cost and schedule, and ultimately provide a better performing airplane for our customers. Second example I want to share is from the Space Launch System. So this is the big rocket that was designed to go to Mars. And the bold mission here was one where we were able to partner with NASA and a stepwise plan that would not only ultimately get to Mars, but first of all, return humans to the surface of the moon, and this time do it permanently. Set up a permanent base on the moon, set up a lunar space station, in effect, that could be a launch point, then to go take vehicles out to Mars. So we started on this rocket design a few years ago. It was a big, bold mission. You can see a picture of the astronauts up in the upper right-hand corner that are part of this program, which is always a reminder that, again, lives depend on the work we're doing. These astronauts out at the edge of space, demand excellence in our work. And in the lower right-hand corner, you may not recognize him, but one of our mentors on this program was a gentleman named Neil Armstrong. And before he passed away recently, I had the privilege to spend some time with Neil and listen to his stories about being the first man to step foot on the moon. He's a fantastic, humble leader, and learned a lot from him in this program. In any case, we move forward briskly with this program. You can see some hardware pictures of the first unit being assembled and built, biggest rocket in the history of mankind, and went through final assembly and into testing over the last couple of years. And you may have seen it earlier this year, but just to give you a couple of pictures, this is that rocket now in the test stand down at the Stennis Space Center. We did an initial green run test of that in January of this year. And just this past March, roughly a month ago, the full up hot fire test. This is 1.6 million pounds of thrust running for the entire duration of the rocket's fuel capacity, about an 8-minute burn, and a full success on that test just a month ago. So now that rocket is being prepared for first launch. As I said, first mission will be a slingshot mission around the moon to prove all of the capabilities and bring the astronaut capsule back to the Earth. Then ultimately we'll do a moon mission, putting people back on the surface of the moon, and then ultimately go to Mars. And I'm convinced that this is the rocket that will take the first human beings to the surface of Mars. That's the kind of cool stuff you get to do as an engineer. So this was one of my favorite innovation programs, and again, a lot of lessons learned about excellence in the work that we do. And then the last example I'd like to share is this idea of the future of mobility. And so this is an opportunity as an innovator, as all of you are doing in this RIDE engineering competition, is to imagine and to think about new ways that things could be done. So imagine a future that has safe and seamless autonomous transportation, where urban traffic is no longer confined to two-dimensional streets, but operates on 3D highways. That e-commerce is delivered to every point of interest rapidly. The space travel can become as common as air travel is today, and that you can get anywhere in the world in 2 hours. Those are some of the big, bold ideas that are being worked on today by a number of companies around the world. And I had the privilege of working on some of these at Boeing, and now continuing after I've retired from Boeing. A couple of examples in that arena include a prototype of a passenger air vehicle. Think of this as a flying autonomous taxi, a robotic taxi capable of carrying 2 people, all electric machine. You see the flying prototype there on the left. There are actually a number of companies that are flying prototypes today. And I anticipate vehicles like this will come into service over the next 2 to 3 years. And you'll have the opportunity to fly on such vehicles. We also worked on heavy duty drones, that cargo air vehicle that you see pictured here, capable of carrying 500-pound payloads over long distances. And one of my favorite wraparound projects with that cargo air vehicle was the development of an X-wing fighter. And I'll jump to the next chart to show you that in more detail. If you look very closely at that X-wing fighter on the left here, you can see this cargo air vehicle drone is inside. And there's a lightweight shroud that's built around that drone to provide the X-wing configuration. This was a special project we did with Disney. And over a 4-month time period, we went from this initial drone concept to flying X-wing fighters over the Star Wars theme park. And you can see a picture of the team in the center here, carrying on the park theme here. You can see, of course, the Millennium Falcon in the background there. Those of you who've been to the Star Wars theme park, it's a fantastic venue. But as part of the grand opening, we had the chance to fly 2 of these X-wing fighters. And you can see that picture in the lower right corner with some Disney magic on the lighting. At night, these X-wing fighters just look fantastic. You can't see the drone on the inside, but these things are flying around, zipping around in the sky. They look like real full-scale X-wing fighters. Fantastic. And our team went, as I said,
You can go ahead.
Our team went from design to flying those vehicles in about 4 months, and doing that over a populated area in a safe way. So another example of the kind of innovation that can be done, hopefully a project that gets your wheels turning a little bit. And when you combine all of these different types of innovation, technical and product innovation, along with process and business innovation, you can do some magical things. And this is just one such example. And now today, in my second career, I've had the opportunity to launch a new business called New Vista that's investing in emerging technologies, including some of these advanced air mobility technologies, new space technologies, new defense technologies, logistics and transformation. And as part of this, my reminder is to always keep learning. And my one takeaway from my entire innovation journey is that the most important investment we make is the investment in people. That's what I like to call a people first strategy. And by investing in people, that's really where we gain our sense of excellence. So with that, I'll wrap up my comments, and I'm more than happy to take any questions that might be out there. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to gallery view. Any questions out there or comments? Happy to field anything that might be out there.
I actually have a question about like New Vista. Is that going to be like under like a branch of Boeing, or is that more as in like its own like separate entity?
It's a separate entity. It's a new company. I retired from Boeing at the end of 2019. And so I've been doing my own work as a consulting company for a little over the last year. And I launched this new company, New Vista. Actually, we did our IPO in February, and we're now listed on the NASDAQ. So this is a new standalone company that's investing in emerging technologies.
Thank you.
Any other questions popping up out there?
I have one other one if no one else is asking questions.
Jump on in.
So since a lot of us are like currently, I guess like in college and stuff like that, like during like your youth, what would you say is like one of the most beneficial things that like you've done to kind of get to where you are?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is I had the opportunity early in my career to do a lot of hands-on engineering work and work on a variety of different kinds of airplanes and spacecraft. And so that breadth of experience early was really valuable to me. So I encourage multidiscipline kind of experience and the opportunity to work with both engineering and non-engineering disciplines and building those kind of multidiscipline teams, really valuable. So I'd say get comfortable and pursue opportunities to gain multidiscipline experience or work with people that come from other areas. The strength of diversity in a team was really important. And then I also think this idea of being bold with your dreams, right? I had my career path at Boeing was not something that I planned, but I always sought out the hardest, most difficult challenges that Boeing was working on. I wanted to go take on the most challenging projects and really stretch and grow. And fortunately, I had managers who gave me such assignments. So I encourage you to pursue things that might feel uncomfortable, pursue things that really cause you to stretch your mind and grow. And in so doing, you can make a lot more progress and really drive a lot more innovation. So those are a couple of thoughts for you. Have courage and passion in what you're doing. And then always remember to invest in the people around you.
Thank you.
You bet. Great question.
Hey, Dennis, this is Jeff Pike. I've got a question about you. You had mentioned New Vista is interested in emerging technologies. And most of the people on this call are really interested in the amusement industry, obviously because they're doing rides. And an interesting thing about the amusement industry is sometimes it's reactive to technologies and attractions are developed to kind of coincide with those. When flight became a thing, the amusement industry had all kinds of flying rides. When cars became a thing, you'd see all these driving rides that come out. Some cases, the amusement industry is kind of ahead of the technology, like the fantasy aspect of it maybe can drive some ideas in emerging technologies. Do you see any kind of new or fantastic ideas that people like these guys are thinking up that could be an emerging technology?
Yeah, right on. Jeff, I agree with what you're saying. And as you said, you can both be a lead or a smart follower on the innovation front, and both are highly valuable. Right now, there's a ton of interest in space and space travel and the space ecosystem. You see all kinds of companies working on new launch vehicles to break the cost barriers on access to space and build out a credible space ecosystem in low Earth orbit. So I would be surprised if someday we see rides in space. A lot of people are building destinations in space, space factories, space hotels. I don't know if it's feasible, but imagine a roller coaster in space. I don't know. That's probably a hard design problem, but someday there's going to be a low Earth orbit ecosystem, and you could think of that as a potential market. I think more broadly, the space theme is a really interesting one, and so even bringing space to the ground, if you will, in amusement parks. That thematically, I think, is a very strong area. So, there's a couple of initial ideas, but I'm guessing that the team on the line here has got a lot more great ideas.
You hear that, everybody? It's bring space to the ground. Bring the ground to space. I love it.
There you go. Or what we could really use is a great ride that takes you from the ground to space and back. And I wish somebody could figure out how to do that.
Okay, we'll talk to you about it later on after the call then.
I'll welcome everyone to visit the International Space Training Center at Epcot, right? I'm particularly proud of.
There you go. That's a great one. I love it.
I actually have a follow-up question to what Jeff Pike said. Because although besides, I guess, the attraction, like the theming with like space and like these different types of stuff, like do you ever use the technologies from theme parks and incorporate them to actually design your, I guess, the spaceships and like things like that, such as like maybe like potentially using like hydraulic launches for like to like launch any type of rocket or stuff like that?
Well, I think that's an interesting area of intersection, right? I can't say that I personally have done something like that, but I think looking for those cross applications of technologies makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I also see a ton of innovation happening in materials technology. That some of that I think can be enablers in the ride engineering arena, and cross-pollination of some of those new material concepts could have some really interesting cross-field applications. So that's one area that comes to mind immediately for me. I think even the digital and simulation technologies that are going into the design process itself is another area for cross application. So it's not always necessarily the technologies that are in the products themselves, but sometimes it's the underlying digital processes and design techniques that are equally valuable. So I'd look for opportunities there as well.
Thank you. So I guess it's kind of like a mix in a sense, like kind of just like, all right, thank you.
Yep. But this idea of always looking for ways to innovate where you can take a technology or a process from one sector into another, that kind of disruptive innovation is really valuable. And a lot of people just spend a lot of time working one sector. And when you can do cross-sector thinking, that's where some of the breakthrough innovation happens. Any other questions out there? Charlie, if you're out there, I think I'm almost up to my time stop, but I want to be mindful of that. So I'm happy to hand it back to you when you're ready. Right, Charlie, I can see you and I can see you wave, but I can't hear you.
I need to put this on. Now can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little muffled with your mask there, but I understand the protocol.
Yeah.
Now you are loud and clear.
Hello, everybody. I am somewhere else now. So thank you, Dennis. Then a little bit further away. Thank you, Dennis, for your speech and for being available to us at this time. And
And Charlie, let me just say congratulations to everybody online. It's really an honor to join you this evening, and I look forward to hearing more about the competition and the results. And I'm going to be heading out to Ames shortly, so I may even get a chance to see some of you in person next week if you're still around. But thanks for the opportunity to join you, and thanks for the innovation that you're all creating.
Yeah, and thank you for the Innovation Fellows program. Has been a huge part to making this event happen, and you've been able to coach me as I and our team went through designing this competition and setting all of these students up for success. So, on behalf of our whole team and the competitors here, thank you for all you've done over the last year for us. All right, so we will now transition over to our Q&A panel. So Dennis, you're welcome to stick around and ask questions of our industry professionals as we go here. So we're gonna cease this stream that we've been doing, and I will introduce our panelists here. So we've been able to get a few of our industry professional judges who have been spending the last week going through all of your reports and seeing the work that you've done. And they've agreed to join us today for a Q&A panel. So I'm going to be here and available to moderate the panel. So as we have questions, I'm going to sort of reword questions as we go and give them to specific panelists, because we have a decently sized panel here. So I want everybody to welcome Chris Reynolds, is a mechanical engineer from S&S Worldwide.